with SRH interventions. My name's Alice Cartwright. I'm an associate scientist at FHI 360, and I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And I'm very excited to see you all here today and moderate this session. We are going to have 4 presentations on various innovative approaches to engaging with youth on SHR today. We'll have some video interventions, we'll have some other exciting interventions, innovative interventions, so really looking forward to hearing from our panelists. We are going to hear 4 presentations, and I'd ask you to hold your questions, and we will do the Q&A at the end. So first, let me introduce Anushri Banerjee. She's a specialist in programs and training with IPAS Development Foundation in India, and she has been working with IDF for almost 4 years. She is a development professional with more than 11 years' experience of empowering rural communities, especially young people, in several diverse locations of India. She is committed to the cause of empowering communities to access sexual and reproductive health and rights, and firmly believes in the motto, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." So welcome, Anushri. Yes.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, everybody. So, hope you're having a good time here. So today I'm going to talk about the digital innovation that we've been trying at IPAS Development Foundation. And this is a journey that we have started, and it's a continuous process. So this is all about an AI-powered chatbot, Disha Didi, which means an elder sister, to enhance access to SRH information for rural women and adolescents in India. So to start with, I'll take you to the context to give you a little background about the whole idea. Is on the basis that IPAS Development Foundation, we work in the communities to empower them on sexual and reproductive health rights and service accessibility. So on that basis, when we started working with the communities, we get to learn that there is stigma attached to it, and it is obvious that people, especially women, are very hesitant to talk about the SRH needs, the problems that they regularly face. So in such a context, when a lot of people are very much ignorant about the SRH problems, they tend to normalize the issues that they face on a regular basis, and a country where most of the people are unaware of the fact that the abortion in India is legal. So in a place, talking about it is often, is obviously a cause of stigma. So on that ground, we started. And we saw a lot of women have their unresolved queries on sexual and reproductive health. They don't know how to do, what to do, and when they face any problem, even they are ignorant that they could not even identify if they have any problem. Because generally what happens, it is so normalized that other women in the house, if somebody is facing a problem, adolescent is facing a problem, the other women in the house say, okay, it happens. So you don't need to visit a doctor. So this is how this has been going on. And there are so many issues that we regularly see that these girls and women are constantly facing. So awareness is one of the key factors that women do not have that, behavior towards seeking service. On the other hand, there is no easily available information to check what am I supposed to do if I missed my period. Who am I going to talk to about? So that is another point of concern that these women are constantly facing. And to adverse the situation, this pandemic has come. So during the pandemic, they faced the challenge in a higher amount, because during that time, they really struggled to get information along with There was a struggle to get service and the commodities. Nothing was available for them. And also it added up, their agony added up with the myths and misconceptions related to COVID. Even if the vaccine, a pregnant woman, can a pregnant woman get vaccinated? So there were a lot of myths and misconceptions and doubts, everything was happening. So this idea, we got to know, generated from there when there was a COVID unlock in India after the first wave. So this started back in 2020 when we started thinking about it, that how do we help these women. So when we reached out to them, they shared their problems. They said they felt helpless during that period because they had nobody to go to, reach out to, ask for information. So in such a context, this thinking came up to us, and this whole product is designed with them. We also seen opportunity as a silver lining to all the problems that they were facing, because the internet penetration, the mobile data accessibility is very high in India, and that is praiseworthy because at the remotest village, people can access internet and use their mobile phone, which was a learning for us amidst all the negative, all the adverse effect, but that was a silver lining. Also, we realized that this pandemic has actually shifted the mode of education. From offline, youth have gone to online education mode. So they have access to a smartphone and a WhatsApp. So people were kind of oriented on both usage of both of these. So we use these opportunities and try to create something that the women wanted. So now this, we have co-created this chatbot. It is through a human-centered design model. So the objective of this was to empower women in SRHR space with easy to access information to make informed SRH choices, because that is the work that we wanted to put emphasis on. So how did we go there? First, we have done a user need assessment, and then we sort of developed a idea, a sort of a very first level, basic level concept development, and then we have gone for a prototype testing. Now this prototype testing is creating a tangible form of idea and testing out with people how is it going, and then getting the feedback from them, and again developing it further. So that's how we did the prototype testing with around 1,200 young women in 2 states to get their feedback on the product. And then we also done an exploratory research about how does it feel to get the service from a service facility, or what it takes a young woman to actually get to the service or acquire information on SRH. So we mapped, it's sort of a user's journey of a woman to take service. So all of that was done through exploratory research, and we have also identified a user persona through them. And then we improved the bot based on the feedback and the experience shared by the users. And that's how we got an idea that women wanted in the rural India is an AI-powered chatbot to resolve open-ended queries in English as in Hindi written with English letters. With a human interface, because they often said during the prototype testing, they often said that there are questions we are getting answers, but there are some questions we are not getting answers, and we want some human interface to resolve our queries. We have sub questions, we wanted to know more, and we wanted to get that assurance. So this is how our product was, our chatbot service was developed, and this is the persona that the rural women selected. They call them Disha Didi. So Disha Didi, Didi means an elder sister, And Disha means the right way. So this chatbot is basically named by the target group because they felt they needed an elder sister to guide them in right direction when it comes to SRH services. So Disha Didi chatbot is basically an enabler for young women in rural India to make informed SRH choices and dispel the COVID-19 related doubts. Moving forward, the tested activity or what we have tested. We tested Disha Didi chatbot. It's like I already mentioned, it's a human-centered design-based chatbot based on user preferences, and the language we use it is in English, and it is personified, it is confidential and easy to access, like 24/7 one can access. Like in short, to-go place for any woman in India to seek service on SRH problems. And what are the key features? The key feature is that it has information on 6 SRH topics, which includes adolescent health, menstruation, RTI, STI, abortion, contraception. Along with that, we also have a feature on COVID-19. So, and we also, this chatbot offers 10,000 probable questions on these 7 topics altogether. And at the end, user have the option to choose to talk to a counselor through messages. So this is the bot that has been designed by the young women of rural India. Now look into the where did we implement it? We have implemented this bot in 2 states. Like I said, IDF works on ground with young women in 4 different states in India. So this was actually done in 2 states, Madhya Pradesh and Jharkhand, where we have the Hindi-speaking communities. And next, the target population was very specific, 15 to 24 years young women with chatbot, who are chatbot users. And also, this was promoted through the youth leaders, local people who are already engaged in our community interventions. So this was done for 6 months. And we kept on evaluating the bot performance on some selected indicators. We tracked usage and accuracy. We also upgraded the bot based on the reports and the user feedback and the counselor's insight. So the intervention location, just focus. Madhya Pradesh, we worked in 4 different districts, and 4 different districts and some selected pockets. In Jharkhand, we worked in 1 district in 2 blocks, that is Chakradharpur and Chaibasa. And the population here is mostly a tribal population, and the target group, as I already mentioned, is 15 to 24 years young women. So let's look at what we learned out of this. What are the key findings that we've got? Very surprisingly, we learned that a significant percentage of these young women are WhatsApp users and have their phones. So they own a phone, and they prefer chatting language is English. Just in 6 months, this chatbot encouraged 13,000 young women to seek professional support. And 14% of the total queries, 14% of women sought support on contraception, while 10% sought support on abortion. 938 women reached out to counselor for support, and most inquired topic was on fertility, missed period, contraception, RTI, abortion-related information. Now we have also noticed one thing, that in India, women have a constant pressure. I mean, the married women have a constant pressure to prove fertility. So we found a lot of queries coming to us as why I am not being able to conceive. How can I conceive? In the menstrual period, which time is the fertile period? When can I, that will help me to conceive? Also, we've seen that peer-to-peer sharing of this bot has happened. I mean, they were so interested. One woman, if a girl has learned this about this bot, she is found to be, sharing it with other girls. So that's how we saw that people are really interested in this sort of engagement. Family members like husbands and brothers have also seen to be encouraging their, women in the house to use their phones in case they do not have a phone. So they actually encouraged other women to give their phones. Now the lessons learned, I'll quickly go through the lessons, that it has definitely enriched our learning on on the technology-driven project management. We have established tested evidence through HCG approach. Within a brief time, Disha Didi could give significant number of young women to make informed SRH choices. There's a scope to scale it. The project encouraged young women to seek professional support 24/7. Although HCD approach indicated preference on open-ended chat, but here we felt that no, people actually like the guided chat. The pre-fed menu is more viable for them because an open-ended query can have multiple sort of variations. And accuracy is definitely a challenge to answer that. And also we learned that AI depends on maximizing the user base. Accuracy depends on because the more user will use it and use a particular word, the AI will pick up easier. So chatbot promotion is also very crucial to reach and to get to a lot of people to improve the accuracy. Way forward, what we think is we need to scale this up, we need to customize the bot based on the experience so far, we need to refine our question bank as well, and we need to have a proper promotion plan. So with this, I would like to conclude here, and thank you so much for your patience hearing.
Thank you so much, Anushree. And for those of you who came in a little late, we're going to hold the questions until the end. So next, I'm going to introduce Dr. Susan Howard. Dr. Howard is a behavioral scientist, innovator, and educator who teaches, mentors, and creates at the nexus of academia, industry, and entrepreneurship. She is co-founder and managing director of the women-owned, Washington, D.C.-based behavioral insights firm, Howard Delafield International, or HDI. She is an appointed health, medicine, and society faculty at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, United States. Susan combines theories from the behavioral and social sciences with best practices from game-based learning technologies, human-centered design, marketing, and business innovations to design solutions that address pressing health and environmental issues both globally and locally. And she is going to be presenting application of a multi-layer theory of change for an innovative mobile game to promote agency for adolescents in India.
Thank you very much, Alice, and I want to thank the previous speaker for basically doing my introduction for me, because she definitely set the stage for the situation in India. So thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone. This is my first time presenting at a conference in 3 years. I know that's probably the same for many of you. December 2019, and who would have thought that would have been, 2.5 years would have passed. This is also the first time I've presented in soaking wet shoes, as I got drenched coming here. So thank you all for attending my session. I wanted to just briefly introduce Howard Delafield International. We've been around for 25 years, and we were founded in 1995, and for 25 years we've been asking the question, as our previous speaker addressed, why? What are the behavioral insights? What are the human-centered insights why do problems exist? More recently, we've been asking the question, what if? And what if we could leverage behavioral insights gained through mobile, but then also using mobile as a technology to influence behaviors. So that was the question we posed to USAID. They issued a broad agency announcement, one of these very rare bids that says, send us your ideas. And it was specifically direct to consumer. They wanted innovations that could directly reach consumers, like the chatbot, like my previous speaker talked about. So we proposed an interactive role play game. And we were funded for 5 years, just recently got a 3-year expansion. And again, that was through USAID, the Global Health Office, Office of Reproductive Health, Reproductive Technology Utilization. I also want to acknowledge Family Health International, who has funded our research. So again, want to be sure to acknowledge donors. We also are a consortium of local India partners, Vihara Innovation. We have the game developer and MetaImmersive Indisgeek. We have Restless Development. We have Pop Council during our research. I think the emphasis on local partners is big, but there's a reason. It's where you get the local ingenuity, and I don't like the term building capacity. The capacity's there. We gave them the opportunity to work with us, and I think a very, very effective partnership. So my previous speaker set the stage about mobile. Thank you very much. So we're not going to talk about why mobile and mobile access and penetration. It's the number one question we ask. People are very suspicious about girls' access to mobile, and particularly girls' access to games. As you can see in the last piece of information there, that girl gamers are growing faster than boy gamers, but there is not a game for girls designed for girls by girls in India ages 15 to 19. So this is the first of its kind from what we know. So I'm going to start with the end, where we are now, and then go back and tell you about the beginning. We launched we launched June 29th, 2022, just a few months ago. We already have 100,000 downloads. And this, we expect to grow. There's an entirely separate presentation on the marketing and the partnerships. There's actually my colleague, our India team lead, Kavita Ayyagari, is here in the audience. She's going to be presenting at 4 o'clock at a presentation called Try Again. So I won't go into the mechanics of building this, and I'm going to talk about the theoretical framework. So sorry, it's not as exciting as Kavita's. But what is exciting, what I heard my previous presenter talk about is, those of you who work in health system strengthening and you think about digital and you think of, well, they're doing something separate from what we're doing. We're working together. You heard that she had 11,000, 13,000 girls seeking care, appropriate demand. So there's an opportunity for digital innovations to actually help work in partnership with the health system strengthening people here. So what we're hoping to do is also similarly create appropriate demand for service provision in person where it's needed. So I've got a little bit off track there, but very briefly, I wanted to give you just the story. Nisha, who hopefully you've seen throughout the conference, she is the first ICFP virtual influencer. She's been showing up around the conference. So very quickly, Nisha, as we all know, decisions are not made in isolation. Nisha's decisions are influenced by her family, her community. We all know this, right? We all know socioecological models. So we have here the mother, the father, we have the boyfriend, we have the sister, we have mentor characters. So it's a story about Nisha who gets a chance opportunity from the woman in yellow, who is her mentor character, to go on a journey to travel throughout India as a production assistant, as a journalist. And she travels to 4 states in India, and in each state she meets different mentor characters and learns from them, everything from an entrepreneur, from a policewoman, from an inventor, from a social media influencer. So she meets real people, and the player is also learning as she's learning. So that's just the setup. Like all games, there's a conflict. She falls in love with the cinematographer, who is Ayush. And of course, the parents who are looking at him very, like, how dare you, like my daughter. They, of course, have other plans for her. They want her to get married to the suitable boy. So there's conflict, which again makes for a good story and a good game. So USAID funded, there are intermediate results. I won't share with you the results framework, but I want you to meet the IRs. Each one of these has, intermediate results as part of them, but just generally improve knowledge. Of course, the knowledge is on sexual reproductive health. But not only your sexual reproductive health, we also integrate safety. We also integrate career decisions. So we look at this as an adolescent responsive intervention. girls are not going to pick up an app, or may not pick up an app because it's an SRH app. They will pick up an app if it's a game and it's about their life and happens to have information about SRH. And I think that's really key in how you position any kind of SRH information to adolescents. It's stealth learning. It's a way for them to learn without knowing they're learning. So expanding access through products, services, and information within the game. Again, this was a direct to consumer award. Improve agency. The way we define agency in this game is having a girl define her desires and goals and dreams for herself, giving her the skills, giving her the ability and the confidence to negotiate what she wants. So that's how we're illustrating the kind of demonstration of agency through this game. And one of the things I failed to mention, which is really the heart of this game, it's a simulation. Girls get to choose the outcome, choose a choice, see the outcome of their choices. So that's the basis of this game, that it's a simulated outcome. And of course, contribute to learning, and again, in the stealth way. So here's the slide that's really boring with a lot of words on the slide. But if you think of any hypothesis, there's an if-then, right? So if a girl experiences the simulated outcome of her choices, of her avatar's choices on health, relationship, and confidence through a game that offers elements of immersion, fun, challenge, and nudges her to access products, information, and appropriate service delivery, then the girl will learn to make informed decisions about SRH that will positively impact the course of her life in the real world. So developing this diagram of the pathways, many of you here in this room, I'm sure, have developed pathways, models of change, because you have to if you're a donor. This was very difficult to conceive of this because it's not linear and it's not one way. It's multi-layered, it's multilinear, which is the name of my presentation. It's also building blocks, and you can go forward and you can go backward. In fact, the learning happens when you go backwards. The learning happens when you fail, right? So when the girl fails, she tries again, and then she learns. So there are 4 pathways: discover, play, decide, and act. Each one of these are underpinned by theoretical frameworks. And I'm not going to go into the details of each of the theories. I'm just going to let you know that they are underpinned by theories, which I'm going to highlight in a very high-level overview. I'm going to walk you through, kind of under the hood, what happens in the game for each of these theoretical components. So there's a theory. Well, how is that applied in the game? So the discover pathway is based on the premise of the Proteus effect. The Proteus effect is based on the idea if a player plays as an avatar that resembles them, or they dress to appear to look like themselves, they're more likely to emulate that behavior in real life. So this is a theory that exists, and it's called the Proteus effect. So here you see the girl, the player, being able to choose and customize her avatar, create a persona. You heard about personas earlier, and all of this, there's a whole, how did we come up with this presentation? But this is where we were in launching the game. We came up with different outfits, hairstyles, personas. We also are drawing on behavioral economics and theories of nudge theories, where within the game, at moments that are opportune for her, say she has to, in the story, make a decision about deciding to become intimate with her boyfriend. Well, all of a sudden, there are videos that talk about, that are from Love Matters, from partner organizations, NGOs in India already working. We're not recreating the wheel. We're collaborating. We're not competing with existing NGOs. And the players can actually access those links. And then the next scene, she applies that learning in the next scene within the game. Here's an example of role modeling where she's speaking to a police officer who actually achieves agency. And again, in this case, agency is defined as the police officer saying, I want to be a policewoman, and here is what I had to do to get there. And she shares her story as part of an interview. The next component is play. I happen to do my dissertation on game-based learning and play, and looking at decisions that people make in a park setting, and that was very much the inspiration of this game. You all know play. I don't even need to tell you what play is, right? The fundamental rules of play there has to be fun. There's got to be a story. There's got to be an engagement. Maybe there's a challenge. There has to be rules. There has to be ways to win and lose. There will naturally be interaction. If there's a challenge, you're going to find ways to solve that challenge through problem solving. And what's really extraordinary about games is you get feedback. You immediately get feedback, and then you want to try again to get better. So we have incorporated all elements of play into this game. And again, it's all based on theoretical frameworks In this case, it's the Prensky model. This is an example of a scene where the scenario is that Nisha has met and is very attracted to the boy Ayush, and he's attracted to her. And this is the episode on consent. There are 5 episodes. The first is on identity and mobility. Again, we want to get the girl into the game. So it's about what does she wear? How does she choose to dress? The second episode is on menstrual hygiene management. The third episode is on consent. The fourth is on contraception. And the fifth is on negotiation. So in this episode on consent, he leans over in a movie theater and says, Nisha, may I kiss you? And the player gets to decide what to do. So she gets the option to kiss him or say no. And then when she says no, just popcorn appears. They continue on their way. And it shows the outcome of that choice. And it's also very positive messaging that the boy gives her. He doesn't reject her. And again, that's one of the messages we want to convey to girls, that you don't have to feel pressured to something that you feel uncomfortable with because your boy's going to leave you. And that's what we found from the formative research, that that's why they consent. So in the decision-making pathway, this is based on social learning theory. And again, as I said, there are several role models within the game to help her in her decision-making. I'm going to show you 2 clips. This is an example of how this happens very organically within the game. So Nisha gets the choice to go shopping or go to a cafe, or the player gets to choose. So she goes on a shopping spree. She encounters her mentor character, Dr. Paro. And Dr. Paro, she very organically, I think, has a conversation about exactly what our previous speaker talked about, fertility awareness. When might I be at most risk for pregnancy? How do I understand my fertility? And she shows her the Cycle Beads app, and I'm trying to get this to play. And it's in Hindi, but
अवॉइड करना और तुम
we could have some volume, please.
यूज कर सकती हो। वो कैसे? अगर तुम्हारा मासिक चक्र या एमसी 26 से 32 दिन लंबा और रेगुलर है, तो पीरियड्स के पहले दिन से गिनती शुरू करो और 8वें से 19वें दिन तक संबंध बनाना अवॉइड करो या गर्भ निरोधक यूज कर लो।
क्या हाई-फाई ऐप है?
So this was in Hindi, and actually the whole game is also in English. And what happens here is that she is given information, basic information on when she might be at risk for pregnancy, and tells her when she's at risk she should use protection. The next scene, she's given an opportunity to act on that information.
चाबी रखी? फोन? वॉलेट?
थक भूल गया।
क्या?
मेडिकल स्टोर से वो लाना।
मतलब? कॉन्डम?
So even if you can't understand Hindi, you kind of have an idea of what's going on there. They're sitting on the beach. You know, she says, ready to go. He said, yes. Do you have your keys? Do you have your wallet? Do you have your phone? And do you have that? Well, what is that? You know, the condom. And again, it's a very realistic conversation that would happen between a boy and a girl. And then the player has to decide what to do. How does she negotiate to not have sex, to go to the pharmacy or wait? So I won't give it away. You can actually play the game in booth 97. I won't give away the whole story. But whatever, the player gets to choose for her and see the outcome of her choices. And she gets feedback. The diary, the talking diary, actually gives her some feedback if she chooses unprotected sex, and she is in a high risk for having sex, and she doesn't know his sexual history. So there are some feedback. Sorry.
चले?
चाबी रखी? फोन?
So the ACT pathway, again, as I said, this is a direct-to-consumer award. So built into the game is product, services, and information. And we have Kavita Ayagari here, who is the India team lead, who got together about 20 partnerships with, again, local organizations. They're all either non-governmental organizations or small organizations that are for-profit, and again, giving them a platform, giving them the opportunity to showcase their products. We hope to go and access and seek out private sector partnerships as well, meaning commercial, and have in-game, so we'll have the opportunity to have revenue through a revolving fund mechanism. So this is how the partner products works. So I'm wrapping up together. These are, as you can probably gather, they're all theoretical pathways. They're all pathways to change, but they're not linear. And I think that's what I want to convey to this audience today, that behaviors are not made. First of all, they're not right or wrong decisions. They are very complex. Decision-making is very complex. people influence how decisions are made, circumstances influence how a girl makes the decision. And what we did here is we used a game platform to engage, empower, and educate, hopefully, young adults. I'm sure you're wondering about measurement. There's a whole other presentation on this. We have a three-pronged approach. In-game metrics, obviously everything from demographics to how long they play, how long they spend on a scene, what choices they make, what choices they replay. So we have over, I think, 30 million points of data right now of 100,000 players. We're also in the process of, again, through FHI's funding, doing an outcome evaluation, and Pop Council is going to be doing the outcome evaluation. We should have results next March, and we'll do a dissemination presentation on our outcome results. What's really fascinating is we are working with Virginia Tech and George Mason University to build predictive analytics models to be able to take the data, to be able to classify, associate, and phenomenally predict behaviors in the real world, and also be able to provide in-game nudges for girls who may be at risk to suggest to them maybe they should go seek care or counseling. So that's what's really exciting about this game. We plan to make several iterations of the game. We have three years for funding, and what's very exciting is all of the mistakes that we made for this game we're able to fix because we were awarded work to, and are very happy to have our AOR here from Nepal, from USAID. We're going to be developing a game in Nepal for Nepali girls, again, starting with girls, co-design, formative research, so designing for them. And I get to joke with my India team, we get to, do a do-over, do all the things we would have done differently. And I think that could be a whole other talk, and start again in Nepal. We're also developing a game for boys. Right now we have about 40% of all players are boys, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's very exciting. Again, for true transformative change, we have to work with the boys as well. So we're developing a game for boys. It's got to be much more exciting and fast-paced because they're playing PUBG. So it's going to be a very different type of game. And we're also currently seeking resources to expand the content. Imagine a game for married adolescents. Imagine all the decisions you are dealing with in your organization, decision-making. Postpartum care, or in facility-based delivery or home-based delivery, and the outcomes of each. Imagine what's possible. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Susan. So now let me introduce Jorge Rivas. He is the Corporate Service Director for PSI Latin America, and he has a marketing degree and a master's in public health. Jorge has over 15 years of experience working on health development through marketing and research techniques. In his present role, he oversees and provides technical support on all activities related to design and implementation of communication strategies, programs, products, and campaigns for Latin America. He also has extensive experience in research both in the Latin American and the African regions. And today he's going to be discussing designing health interventions with Latin American youth, learnings from end-to-end consumer co-creation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm happy to present to you another perspective about the same problem and about the same approach using HCD to develop interventions using the youth, including the youth as the center for developing these interventions. So we will find a lot of similarities, but I want to show you also some other thoughts that we have put in mind. So first of all, let's talk about the region and the problem. So to understand a little bit about the young population in the Americas, I think the biggest problem is that when we see or when we think about America, we think about development, but there are a lot of us in the Americas that are actually not well developed. And as you see on the left, the youth population from the Americas, it's decreasing. Actually, from the countries that we work on, Central America and Dominican Republic, the youth population is growing. So we are becoming younger in the region. So that's the first problem. We are younger than compared to the region. And then there is the adolescent birth rates, which are pretty outstanding in the Central American region. Nicaragua, for example, recorded the highest estimated adolescent birth rate of 85.6 per 1,000. So how does this look compared to the region? If we look at the first group, split by 5-year age ranges, when we look at the 20 to 24 years old, we are pretty much similar to the average fertility rate. When we go younger, the 15 to 19s, we are above the world and above the continent and above Latin America. But if we go even down, the ages 10 to 14, sadly, we are increasingly above that average. So there is a lot of very young people having children in Central America with the highest rates in Nicaragua, for example. So this is the health problem. Then, of course, we are here for digital solutions. So let's talk about the internet access in the region. This is the access per sides of the Americas continent. Of course, North America has, this is a 2017, which so now it's even higher, but North America has the highest, then South America. But here, locally, in Central America, we are above the world average. So yes, we have access to internet in the region, which that's an opportunity. If we go deeper on this information and compare a study made in the region, we have almost 80% of owners in Guatemala. This is one of our countries in the region. 71% of women own a phone, so that's also another opportunity. And if you see the map that is on the left, that's those are the quartiles in terms of the possibilities of the population to afford mobiles. So as you can see, our region it's very dark, so they can't afford it. However, if we go to the second bars that we have on the graph, they have purchased a phone even if they can't afford it. So people will have a phone even if it costs them a lot more than what they can pay. So there is access. So what's the opportunity? We know and we have learned that what influences youth are their friends, their education, and we saw some examples of education, but also media. Youth really are into the media. They are the ones that use the social media. So that's why our focus is to actually think about how we better use the social media to do the education, to do the message delivery that we want to conduct. So then, what is our program? Our program is called Usala Bien, which stands for Use It Well. Basically, what we have is a digital engagement platform in the countries of Central America and the Dominican Republic. We provide information and education through cyber education. Cyber education is basically having educators which work 100% digitally. So they provide education through Facebook inbox, through Instagram, through WhatsApp, or any other digital platform that the youth require. And also we have trained physicians and friendly services as part of the intervention. So we, on one hand, we need to generate the demand through the cyber education. On the other hand, we want to ensure that the providers are actually youth-friendly because there is a lot of stigma about youth seeking for family planning services. So what did we do? I'm not going to go in a lot of detail about this because this actually calls to the same that we have been discussing using HCD, human-centered design, for interventions. But basically what we do is take tools that are already there and do a lot of research, then get insights, then do ideation, And based on the ideation, prototype the ideas. And this is an iterative process that we do. So we take it and put it into the PSI form, and then based on that, we did co-create it with youth a lot. We conducted 3 human-centered design workshops. We conducted 10 focus groups during the time of the project. We have done 1 empathy, insights, and prototyping workshop. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that all the materials that we have are practically being done by the youth, not by us. We only take their prototypes and put them into the Usala VM shape, but basically they are the ones that decide what to use. So, what have we achieved? How does results looks like? So, we, as our colleagues, we have videos, we have content, we have different resources that they have developed looking as they want them to look. We also have spoken about fertility, we have spoken about the methods, we have the different channels. TikTok is the most popular now. And basically what we have achieved is 131 million of impressions in the social media. We have received from them 147,000 messages. We have posted 1.7 thousand posts in the different network. We also use advertising as part of the better use of the platforms, because when we advertise, we ensure more audience. So we advertise. We have advertised 451 ads, and so far we have 54.4K fans in our networks and growing day to day. The best advantage of using tools like TikTok or something is that sometimes the videos become viral, and so they have a huge exposure. So these examples, like the one that you see here, those have had more than 2 million views in a week, which is very exponential, and especially in small countries like Central America. So this is the first part. Then the second part is that actually the youth, since the content is created by them, they become really attached to the content. We have a lot of buy-in, so they empower themselves. They are empowered. So what we did was to create a youth ambassador program. We did online workshops with them. We trained them, we certified them, and they saw also this participation as a professional development opportunity for them. They can speak that they are ambassadors of a youth program, and that's very helpful. And this is not new. I mean, this has been done like before, but this is the digital use of something that has been happening a lot. But once they become ambassadors, they like to create their own content, and we post that content. So the girl that you see on the top, that's a youth influencer, a youth ambassador, that she just speaks about the program, speaks about the method at her channels. And the ambassadors have developed that much that they voluntarily created a podcast. And they are speaking about the information that they want to hear. So this also builds on the buy-in that we are looking for the program. So we have 61 ambassadors already. The podcast is growing more and more. We are only developed 5 chapters and more than 1,000 plays and growing. We also have a chatbot as our colleagues. Our chatbot has been running for 4 years. And this chatbot is also complementary because you demand to have attention 24/7. So the chatbot is helpful for that because they want to get an answer on Saturday at 2 a.m. So that's very important also as a complement of our program. What have we learned from this, from the youth-based approaches? We need to be very agile, and we have to have the ability for adaptation. Social media changes really, really fast, so we need to be very adaptive. We need to follow the trends. We need to be with the trends if we want to be successful. We need to ensure that our services are certified as youth-friendly. This is key. We have learned that it actually makes a lot of difference in terms of effectiveness of using the services and actually getting the methods. We need to constantly train the digital team that supports youth. That's a standard for every program, right? And then we also have learned through the digital use that digital platforms are new sources of research and have modern media tools. So we all know that research is expensive, but we all have seen that we can do a lot of surveys on social media. We have answered surveys in social media all the time. So we can use this in our favor. And one of my colleagues, Andrea, had a presentation specifically about how we use the social media as a source of information. There is a lot of information sitting there that we can use that will be less expensive than conducting specific youth-based research studies. The information is public. Some information can be just gathered, some other could be conducted through some softwares, but still, the amount of data that we have is huge. So we need to also think in these new opportunities and just complement it with traditional research, yes, but there is still more out there that we can use. And what's next for us as an organization? So we have a BIA brand, a BIA initiative that we are developing. BIA is our social business unit phase. So we are looking to engage with women along their sexual and reproductive health journey. We want to equip women with the tools that they need to make the right decision. So we want to provide them with content, with products, e-commerce platforms, telemedicine. So what we want to do is to support women when the young audience that we got through a funded program evolves or grows, they will be taken by our social business unit and still served through different stages of the life cycle. So for example, we will have different content for her through VIA, but still use this opportunity because she's already part of our audience. So we need to keep her in the different life stages. We also need to offer her different family planning products at different stages to keep serving her. We want to offer telemedicine and traditional medicine during different life stages. We can offer emotional support, and the economical support will depend also on the stages, but the opportunities are limitless. We can offer pleasure, self-care, psychological support, nutritional support, etc. So that's what we are aiming for, and this is my presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jorge. All right, so now let me introduce Mavis Banda. She is a project implementation manager for VSO Zambia. She has over 16 years of experience managing and implementing sexual and reproductive health and rights and life skills programs, strategies, and campaigns targeting low literacy and marginalized youth groups and their communities. Mavis joined VSO in 2015 and has worked for VSO's SRHR initiative in Samfya district for over 7 years, and now the Make Way, a lobby and advocacy intersectionality program, leading training and capacity building for young people, groups, organizations, and district-wide stakeholders. And she is going to present on use of innovative technology, the talking books to deliver effective and impactful SRHR information, and integrated SRH FP services among marginalized adolescents and youth in Samfya district, Zambia.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy that you could make time to attend this session. I'm going to talk a bit about a project that we implemented in Samfya called the Talk Project, and with the use of the talking book as the innovation or technology that we employed on the project. This introduction has been given already, but I want to also mention that we targeted, our work was targeted on youth in Samfya district, which is a rural district in the north of Zambia. That map there shows a bit about where it's located. It's a very rural district. Most of the parts of Samfya actually have no power, no electricity. It is a fishing community, and it has a lot of mobile populations. So my presentation shall cover the background of the program itself, the program intervention, the methodology, the results learned, and also then I'll conclude and make recommendations. Just to give a bit of background to Samfya, I said that it is a rural district, and it is not very uncommon to find challenges such as low contraceptive use, because this is a rural community where traditional beliefs and cultural practices are very predominant. And so menstrual hygiene is also one of those challenges. There are high rates of teenage pregnancies. There are early marriages, predominantly so because most families believe that when they marry off they are young, then they can earn economically from that transaction. There's also high risk of HIV and STI information because of the migrant population. Also high sexual and gender-based violence cases. There's also poor access to youth-friendly services because the infrastructure is not there, although the government has made it policy that each health facility should have a youth-friendly corner or space. And also, there are a lot of taboos around talking about sexual reproductive health in the families, because sex is a very sensitive subject. I think in most parts of our world, it's very difficult for me, even as a person who's speaking there and has worked in the sexual reproductive health space, to speak about sexual reproductive health to my girls. So some of also the challenges that most of these communities face because they are rural, there's very little access to technology. For example, globally, 558 million people are illiterate. 500 million women don't even have mobile phones. 940 live without electricity. And 1 billion plus women don't use mobile internet. Well, mobile internet is even something that is rarely spoken about in the parts of places like Samfya. So the program aims to improve sexual reproductive health knowledge and access to integrated sexual reproductive health and family planning services for marginalized young people in remote and hard-to-reach communities of Samfya. And some of these hard-to-reach places are actually 2 islands called Chishi and Babala. And we targeted in and out of school youth, and this included youth with disabilities, young and at-risk individuals such as migrant workers, sex workers, and members of the fishing community. Now, as VSO, we have a unique model that we use and integrate across our programming called Volunteering for Development. So volunteering for development actually places primary actors at the center of our programming. We co-create with the primary actors and we ensure that we safeguard our primary actors. And also, we use our core approaches. These are 3 core approaches, which are called resilience, social accountability, inclusion, and gender, respectively. So Around our volunteering, we use an approach of blended volunteering where we incorporate community volunteers, local community volunteers, international volunteers, and youth volunteers to encourage cross-learning, capacity building, and also empowering of individuals so that they can act or participate in ensuring that they come up with solutions to their development. So, as we incorporate, we ensure that we build sustainable local NGO and private sector and youth organization partnerships to ensure that we are very holistic in the way we implement our interventions. So this was also a community-focused intervention with unique approaches to ensuring that we challenge existing taboos and we empower youth to ensure that they make informed decisions around their sexual reproductive health and rights, and also enable them to demand for their access to comprehensive sexual reproductive health and family planning services. So one of the innovations or digital technology that we used is the talking books. And this came about because the talk was actually in the second phase when we used this technology. The reason why we employed the talking books in the second phase was that we learned from the first phase where we had trained peer educators to communicate sexual reproductive health information to the communities. And these peer educators were communicating differently. So when we did an evaluation and found that in different communities had understanding of sexual reproductive health and family planning messages differently, we engaged with the young people again and the communities to get a feel of what was it that could bring about like standard and accurate information in the communities. So we, instead of just working with community volunteers, we thought of bringing together facilitators or volunteers or peer educators to use a technology called the talking books to facilitate accurate and standard information. I already started talking about why the talking books. These talking books is a very simple device like this. They have embossed pictures and audio navigation, where if a user is having this talking book, they have to just switch on, press the on button, and then they'll be told where to go and what topics are there. So the talking books can take a lot of information, a lot of messages, audio messages, and in this case, we developed the content with the young people themselves, and it is in the local language, but for the sake of this demonstration, I think that I can invite those that may be interested to listen to the talking book to come and visit our booth, 106, and then I can give a demonstration of how it works. We have uploaded English version of the audio content, but usually it's in the local language and it's culturally appropriate. It's also designed for users with low literacy, and it collects data also for monitoring. For example, it can collect data on how much people have listened to a particular topic, so we know which topic is most popular in that manner. We also can track the length of time that that topic has been listened to, or that session, because it comes in playlists. So the playlist has several topics. It also is able to record user feedback. So with that user feedback, we're able to actually get to hear the needs of the users so that it helps us redesign our programming to be responsive to their needs. Also, I think I also mentioned that it is a very useful tool to ensure that accurate information is actually facilitated to the communities. Because instead of, like a peer educator remembering all the information they learned, the information is actually on the talking book, and it is even very user-friendly and very participatory, because you are able to actually pause and ask people to contribute or give their feeling or reflections on a particular topic. You can also use like a USB to record or upload information on it, and also you can be able to connect it to the owners of the technology called Amplio to translate and interpret information that is on the talking books. So one of the things I'll talk about this, because it was an expression that was very, for me, dear to me. It was an expression when we took the talking books to the community, and people were like, wow, this has never happened to us before. Now it's goodbye to boredom, there's for me, it was a communication that actually there's a lot of recreation gaps in the community. Young people are being left behind, especially in the rural parts of my country, because there's very little recreation and engagement of youth happening. So we did an evaluation at the end of the project, but let me just mention a bit more about this was being done during the onset of the COVID. One of the things that were able to make us be more effective during that time is because the talking book could go from one household to another, being delivered from home. Well, of course, it could be sanitized to ensure that we're not taking COVID from household to household. And also, for us, we were able to effectively give communication to our primary actors, also on the information on COVID, because at the time, COVID was quite new, and even the Ministry of Health didn't have so much resources to reach all the parts of the country. So we're actually the pioneers in Zambia in communicating information on COVID. So the evaluation was both quantitative and qualitative to ensure that we get an in-depth understanding on how effective the talking books were. And a 3-stage stratified cluster design was also used to select a sample of 330 interviews from individuals who also participated in the intervention. They were the beneficiaries of the intervention. So we didn't work with anyone outside. The respondents were only the ones that the project had reached. So 218 individuals participated in structured questionnaire interviews. 112 individuals participated in qualitative data collection activities, including focus group discussions and key informant interviews. And also, this study also noted that there were other people that the project actually didn't target, but they were reached by the intervention in terms of access to information. Even when the project, at the end of the project, we reached 5,572 youth. That includes females, 2,000. These were the primary target group. And so these females were 2,791. The males were 2,611. And then the household also, their households, members of their households were 10,535. This is our initial target was 1,000 youth and 8,000 members of their households. So we actually reached much more than our target. I also just want to mention that the way we were reaching these households was because the young people would be reached in their small groups, and then each member of that small group actually had to go with the talking book home to listen with their families. I also want to mention that there was, from the results that were seen from the evaluation, that there was increased awareness of teen pregnancy, STIs, and child marriage. There's also increased satisfaction on SRHR information available to adolescents, and also increased support and communication from caregivers and health service providers. What we learned from that evaluation was that the value of combined innovative technology with the volunteering for development methodology was evidenced with 97% of adolescents and youth. And then 97% of their parents or caregivers said that the interaction with the community volunteers was good and satisfactory. So these are, you remember, these are communities that really are very secretive and very sensitive when it comes to issues of sexual reproductive health. And they were able to appreciate that such sensitive information still came to their communities, and they benefited from it. You can see there that there's at the evaluation, there was a demonstration that there was an increase in access to sexual reproductive health services. And also, maybe just to share a quotation from one of the headmen from the district in one of the islands called Chishi, said that they had expressed that they had serious cultural beliefs that prohibited discussions of reproductive health. But with the talking books, parents are now able to talk about freely with their young people or in the communities around sexual reproductive health. So, in conclusion, I'd like to say that the talking books is a very effective tool. It's user-friendly. It can be used by communities that are actually illiterate. It can be, it's highly versatile. You can record any information on it. It's effective to reach different people because, and especially those also with visual impairment, because of the way the talking book is made, they can feel and hear the audio navigations. And also, very useful strategy to use during the COVID pandemic. And also, I think it's good because you're able to interact with the user feedback, and so it helps you improve on your programming. And also, above all, it was because we used our volunteering for development standards that we're able to actually implement the project effectively. Thank you very much for listening to me.
All right, so we have a few minutes for questions. There are some microphones in the middle of the room. If you have some questions, please, our presenters are, I'm sure, ready to answer your questions. Please come up to the microphone in the middle of the room if you have a question.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. My name is Mercy Bolaji from Nigeria. So my question is about the talking books. I want to ask if, are they in local languages or they just in, I don't know, the official languages? And then is it just implemented in India? Because yes, I just came into the room some minutes ago, so I'm curious to know because it's interesting. And also to commend the work that you do. So for people who are unable to see things, they are able to hear with that talking book. Well done. But I just want to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe I can respond to that. So the talking books are being implemented in Zambia, not in India. And yes, we have recorded content in the local language. But we also, for the purpose of demonstration, I came with the local content and also in English. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? My name is Megan Gallagher from Save the Children, and we're kind of midway through in developing a contraceptive decision-making app geared towards adolescents in humanitarian settings. And so we have a prototype. We're going to be doing some testing. And I'd love to get your thoughts. We've done a bit of human-centered design, but I'd love to get your thoughts on things that we should be thinking about in this middle stage. I was really impressed by how much you all noted really getting feedback from people and making sure that it was acceptable and interesting. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as I and colleagues kind of continue to think about this in our particular context. Thank you.
I don't know if anyone has anything to direct. Can you be a little bit more specific, maybe in terms of like some of the techniques or methodologies?
It's kind of open-ended. You know, what are some things as you went through this process? Maybe this is a better way to phrase it. As you went through this process, maybe if you were going to do something differently next time, or if there was something that you did in the process that was particularly useful, kind of things maybe from your learning that other people might learn from too. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, whoever feels like they want to add something. I mean, we don't have a huge amount of time, but if you feel like you have a really good response, yeah.
Okay, so from our experience, if you are thinking about an app, I think one of the things that we learn is that you need to really think who is the audience for an app, because they will download it and then probably it will take some important space from their phones. That is really something. So the app is going to be competing with very important, useful other apps that they have in their phone. So I think I can speak to you about that. And I think we have developed a lot of tools, a lot of games also. So the other learning that I can share from our region is that there is also a lot of apps already existent that we can learn from and that we can build on from. So I think that's my take on it.
Because it seems like we have a lot of questions, I will just move on to the next question and then maybe feel free to come up and talk to people afterwards.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentations, and great to see this work aimed at youth. I'm curious if there has been any interest from parents or any adults to see, not as barriers, but just out of interest, their own interest of seeing these digital applications as well. Or if there's been any requests for adults to have digital technologies or digital messages sent to them to support adolescent sexual and reproductive health. You know, adults also are in their phone all the time. So I'm just curious if you've had any interest, not only as barriers, but as supporters. Thanks.
So to answer your question, I think we, during the chatbot implementation, when our workers used to go house to house and see whether there's somebody with a phone ownership, and we have noticed that parents, fathers or brother or a husband is keen to, share the knowledge and also get updated, especially the husbands. They would also like to know about contraception, the myths and misconception related to it, abortion services, etc. So yes, that is very evident that people are showing up interest and encouraging it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations to all four of you for a fantastic use of digital innovations. My question is specifically for the talking book, because the community, I'm from India. I work for FPA India, and we are working in the island somewhere where the people have phone, but internet is a major issue. Also the electricity. So this talking book is something which can be recharged and then can be used. My question is, since it is going from one place to another place, even if it is managed, what is the life for it, if especially the multiple people are using it and moving it, and how cost effective it is to implement, because we may need to produce it again and again, right?
Yes, so maybe to answer for the talking books, it has two versions. So the first version is that you have to buy batteries that can expire, but it lasts from at least a month,
Okay.
for a month. And you have, so the information that you pre-record, you don't keep it in the talking book. It's on a system that you can, whenever you want to refresh the content, you can actually connect to a system and upload and refresh. Yeah, so that can be done. It's cost effective that way because you only record once, like several messages once.
That's right.
Yes, and package them in playlists. For example, you can put them in themes, and whenever you want to refresh a theme, you upload it. But I also just want to answer about is there interest from parents, looking at them as not just as barriers, but also enablers and also recipients of information. I can assure you that at the beginning of every intervention, parents feel threatened. Yeah, so I think as time goes on and you engage with them and they get to understand the benefits of the information that they are receiving or the technology, then they begin to appreciate. Right now, I think the big feedback we are getting from our traditional communities is that the parents actually want to have their own small groups where they can listen to the information in their own small groups because they like to also learn from each other, and they also appreciate that their young people are able to receive accurate information because that has translated to behavior change. Yeah, thank you.
So this, I think, will help to be the last question, but again, feel free to come up after the session and discuss more, but please go ahead.
All right, thank you. My name is Olayinka Mwili. I'm from Nigeria. First of all, I want to appreciate the presenters for all your innovations. They are recommendable. Okay, my first question will go across all the presenters that you actually mentioned your successes. You did not actually mention the major challenge your application actually encounter and how you actually overcome it. I'm coming from the aspect of Nigeria, Africa to be specific, Africa. We know that when you talk about all this app, we have issues that we deal with. So I would love to learn from the challenges you encounter and how you actually overcome it. And to the talking book, I want to know, do you upgrade or update the information or it's just one-off message and they keep listening to? Thank you.
All right, yeah, Mavis, do you want to respond to that? And then maybe very quickly, people could mention a key challenge.
Okay, yes. So for the talking books, you can upload at once, but you have to package them in different playlists, individual playlists. So, for example, for the talk project, we clustered them according to themes. So each theme, for example, it will be in a playlist 1. Each theme will be in a playlist 1, or the next theme will be in playlist 2. So, and every time you upload one playlist. So the playlist will have several topics and sessions. And those ones, whenever you want to refresh, you just go to the next one and refresh. Yeah.
I think I can speak to challenges and can also address the woman from Save the Children. Certainly, we had challenges along the way, but I think because we had an iterative human-centered design process, every time we had a challenge from the first, even the design, and this is something that Save the Children women should think about, are you designing it portrait or landscape? And our developers were developing it in landscape, and when we went to test it, it turned out women, use their phone in portrait mode, not in landscape mode. And so we had to go back to the drawing board and redesign all of our animation, which was quite substantial, but we learned up front. So we also did things like going into the home, since it's all part of the co-creation, co-design process, took pictures of how girls live, took pictures of their clothes, took pictures of their favorite toys, and we made the animation to reflect their lived experience. I think that's absolutely critical. Challenge, of course, was COVID. We developed this entire game during the last 2 years. So we found workarounds. That's one of our HDIs known for, and I think PSI and a lot of us here, we are known for just finding ways to get things done. We know it doesn't stop the work. So we worked through Zoom, as I think we all did, zoomed out, and we were able to, we worked across several continents, and we were able to be very collaborative. So You know, we certainly face challenges, but I think what helped us, and I think I talked about this in my opening remarks, is the team. It was this multi-faceted team of developers, of designers, of researchers, of marketers, of academics, and I think everyone was bought in because they cared so much and were so passionate, and we do work pretty much 24 hours a day. So the challenges that we had, somehow we were able to overcome them all, and I'm trying to think of any key challenges. I'm looking at Lorette here to see if there's any. We have had no backlash. We have a whole backlash strategy. We spent a lot of money hiring an ad agency and a PR firm, have had no backlash. Where's wood? But touch wood, no backlash. And parents, girls have actually wanted to play with their mothers. They would say, oh, I want my mother to play this game. So yeah, challenges, but I think we've been proactive because of the design process and engaging girls all along. And before you get to the prototype phase, you know, that's your minimal viable product that's ready to go to production. You've got to have it right. You've got to test it. And then maybe you have one more chance for the gold build to build it for the final. So iteration, iteration, iteration.
All right, I'd like to invite everyone to give all of our presenters one more round of applause. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to come up and chat further with them.